Well, hello, everybody. We are delighted to be back with another episode of the Pulse of High Performance, sponsored by Yount and Competitive Solutions. And today, Seth and I are super excited to talk not just to like an amazing executive, but also another dear friend. And I tell you, the more I do these podcasts, the more I think I'm the one that gets the most out of it because I'm getting to connect with people that have had like a tremendous impact on me over the years. And our guest today is no exception to that. I want to welcome today Dawn Scott. Dawn is the president of Euracare North America. And Dawn, we are delighted to have you with us today.
Thank you, Shane. Thank you, Seth. It's a delight to be here. I echo what you say. I was thinking about my career and just how long ago I first met you guys. Several jobs ago, and just have had that loyalty and relationship to bring you with me every step of my career. So happy to be here.
And you've aged better than us. Like Seth and I have gray hair now, Dawn, and you still look like you did 30 years ago.
I pay a lot of money for that to cover that up. It's there. Trust me, it's there.
Hey, you know what I want to start with, because I know the first question probably folks are having is, who's Euracare? So, before we talk about you and your career and what you've accomplished, tell us a little bit about your organization.
Okay, Euracare we're a glass manufacturing company. We're actually a joint venture between two companies that came together a long time ago who were kind of our competitors, which is Corning and Saint-Gobain, and they formed a very successful relationship making glass ceramic cooktops. And I tell people at home, if you cook on a piece of glass, there's a good chance it was made by us, and that's what we do.
And you're
we also make glass for fireplaces. People don't really know that. It's not a real big business for us, or hasn't been in the past, I guess, until recently. But
you're coming to us today from where?
I'm in Fountain Inn, South Carolina. So this facility services all of the Americas.
Okay, perfect. And you guys are like, your corporate headquarters, I believe, is in France, correct?
It is basically. So Euracare is made up of 5 plants. 2 of those are located in, 2 of them are located in France. One is a glass melting facility and one is a finishing site. There are 2 in Asia, one in Thailand, one in China, and then the one here in North America.
Wow, that's fantastic. And how's business?
Business is good. We were one of the fortunate companies, I would say, when COVID hit, because everyone had to stay home and cook. So then they stayed home and they redid their kitchen. So we were an essential manufacturer back then. So things have begun to level back out to, I guess, a bit of the norm, and it's going well. But like everyone else, we're faced with many challenges in manufacturing and supply chain. Always being reactive, because the appliance business, we follow appliances, and it's constantly evolving. Biggest probably challenge is the speed of low-cost competitors actually learning this technology and entering the market. So
interesting.
That's probably been the biggest challenge for us in this industry. When I first started many years ago, here there were really just 2 big players for the most part. And I tell people it's like Coke and Pepsi, very similar products. You ask somebody if they want a soda, they don't know a difference. Then you have brand loyal people who say, I only drink Coke, I only drink Pepsi. And that's kind of how it's been. And now there are more players out there manufacturing glass ceramic for cooking.
I didn't realize that when you said how your business probably expanded during COVID, because you're right. When people were home, that's what they were doing, right? They were all cooking. So that makes sense. You've built an amazing career in manufacturing with stops, if I'm remembering correctly, at Avery Dennison, at Schlumberger, right? But you had an interesting path, right? Which is what I love about you, in that you came to president through the path of human resources. Yes. And talk to our audience a little bit about that, because I speak at so many HR events with the SHRM National Conference and state conferences everywhere. And I always look at the HR audience as like, you guys are the one closest to the most valuable resource of an organization, which is the people. And seeing a person come through that channel now to be the president of North America is amazing. So talk to our audience a little bit about kind of your journey from where you started to where you are now.
It is not the typical journey and path, especially for all of the people that have held this role before me. They were all engineers, and I'm not an engineer. I would say, I started in manufacturing for a little bit and then went into corporate finance at Merrill Lynch way back when, and did that and knew not too long into it that that's not what I wanted to do. And that was in Florida, and moved back to South Carolina where, manufacturing is big. So I really focused on training and development, went back to school and got a master's, and really focused in HR, loved it. That's my groove. That's what I know, enjoy working with people. And when I was working at Avery Dennison, it was a startup organization, and for the Power Check label for Duracell, and took a different role. And I think that was a very big developmental moment in my career, because I was working in sales and service. Really, I guess in today's time it would be called like a key account manager, but had a completely different experience, and getting involved in manufacturing, as the voice of the customer, having to interact with all departments in manufacturing to understand why things were delayed, expediting things, and learned so much. And honestly, I think that is what has helped me in my career development, to be able to, I went back into HR after that, but just from recruiting, from staffing, or even problem solving, being involved in the business, to, I know that cliche thing of having a seat at the table, but it's more than having a seat at the table. It's what you do with that seat. It's using your voice to ask the right questions and to help build a stronger organization, or really understand the skills that you need in certain departments and finding them. And so I think that has, been probably, I guess, what's got me involved in projects and different, I guess, aspects of the business, and led to them considering me for this position when the previous president retired. So I still have responsibility for HR still. That's hard, because now, it conflicts with what I really need to do to help grow this business in the challenging times that we have. And I miss it. The reason I enjoyed HR is just really want to make a difference. I understand and feel like when something goes bad at work, people go and they take that home. They take that home to their spouse, their kids, and it's part of their life, and in the things that we do and policies that we make, decisions, how is that going to impact their family and what they do? Because so many people take their self-worth and measure their own measure of success by how well they do at work. And it's so much more than that, but it's really hard to convince people of that. So, I miss being really day-to-day hands-on into that, but I've been very fortunate and blessed to have the opportunity that I have had and still have now.
You've built a great career, Don. I mean, there's no doubt about it. And as you said, we've known each other for a while and have worked together at various locations. And now as the president of Euracare, a large organization. You mentioned earlier supply chain. All of our, the companies we work with, they all have challenges, whether it's staffing and supply chain. And I talked to a company last week that worried about the tariffs. right now at Euracare, is staffing, is supply chain, what are some of the challenges that you and your team are facing and working on as it relates to manufacturing in the United States?
I think staffing plagues all of us in especially in this industrial park where we're located. There's some big manufacturers here, and we compete against them. And especially in automotive, there's so many automotive, and I tell people here, we're not going to be the most expensive. It's our goal not to be the bottom. We're going to fall somewhere in between. So money is something that, for especially younger generations, 25 cents, they'll move, they'll jump quick. And it's that is hard. The other part is, with inflation the way it is, I don't understand why more people don't want to work. It surprises me. No one can explain it to me, because things are costing more and more every day. But we have people who come in, they stay 3 days as a temporary, and we say, hey, you do well, you can be hired. And in a week and a half, they're gone. We have not solved it. Throwing money at it and just increasing the wage causes other problems in managing costs. So that is one that I think will be an ongoing challenge, especially as the generations coming out now. Manufacturing is not what we say sexy. No one wants to go work in a plant anymore. So we're trying to even partner with a local high school and be a part of their advisory board to think differently. Maybe we need to do part-time jobs, kind of things that we never used to consider, just to make it attractive. In addition to that, like you said, the tariffs is right now a big thing for us. The uncertainty, not only for us as a supplier, but how the behavior and the strategy that our customers may choose as a result of the tariffs, where they source things. Do they open it up? Do they, it used to be long ago, you had long-term contracts, 3 years volume. It kind of, you weren't worried about it. COVID made everybody say single sourcing, not a good thing. So that opened it up, and we had to say, okay, we don't like it, but we don't need to take it as personally. It's a strategy. But now some of the low cost competitors located, in China, Mexico, that you see that has an impact. And what our customers are going to do, we're kind of waiting and to see how they will react. We have to in turn prepare for that. We source our glass from Europe. So if there are European tariffs, it will even impact us as a business internally. So we're having many discussions right now on, how can we best prepare for this so that we can, continue to be competitive and a good supplier for our customers.
It's I want to go back where you mentioned something. I think it's a challenge for a lot of manufacturing organizations, because if you look at this generation that's coming into the workforce, I would agree with you, right? I mean, people look at manufacturing, and I think over the last 10, 15, 20 years, it's really gotten a bad rap, right? And now, we could talk a whole nother podcast just about student debt and how, if guidance counselors at the high school level could position those students to say, a community college is a great path, right? And you could get a degree to be able to go into manufacturing and make really good money, right? And begin to position that not every child needs to go to a 4-year college and leave with $100,000 of debt, right? But you can really pursue this path with no debt, partner with like a company like you guys, either in a part-time basis or an apprenticeship program or an internship program, to be able to bring that generation into manufacturing. Because I don't think people realize you can have a very successful life and make really good money in manufacturing, but I think we've missed the ability to market that to that younger generation. How are you guys? You said you were kind of thinking about reaching out to high schools. How are you guys doing that in the area? Because I know in Greenville, like Fountainhead is Greenville, South Carolina. And for our listeners, you may or may not know that area, but I mean, that is a that is a mega area of competition for manufacturing jobs, from Michelin to 3M to BMW, and the list goes on and on and on. So I know it's a constant challenge for you guys.
It is, and there's a high school, Fountain Inn High School is a new high school. It's maybe 4 or 5 years old, close to it. So they created an advisory board of professionals to, number one, tailor some of the curriculum to what needs employers were having. And they have, an impressive shop where they're actually teaching students skills, machine shop skills, for instance. And they will do jobs. They will, they'll say, hey, if you have a project, something real, our kids would love to work on it. And so we've been talking here about, okay, what could we do? They have a recording studio that is impressive. And they have kids with cameras. They said, if you, have anything that you want to do, consider us. So for some of our marketing needs, we've been trying, we keep talking about it. Is there a project we could give them to go over and record something? It's going to be better than, the little circle light that I have that,
right.
that we use, and the cameras or phone, they have real equipment, because one of the department heads, I think he had some connections or had a background in ESPN. So, I mean, it's state-of-the-art stuff for much cheaper than we could go and hire a marketing company to do it. And it also gives us a chance to interact with a different generation. As I get older, I've reached that point where I'm learning more from my kids of what's popular, what's quote unquote trending. We're trading back TikToks, and they make fun of me here, the management team, because I make them make TikToks sometimes. A little bit against their will, but I'm like, come on, guys, let's be fun. And
right.
And we learned of somebody actually selling a product related to what we do here. And I found it on TikTok, because I went and I asked the product engineers, have you heard of this? And they're like, no, where did you hear about it? And I'm like, really? You really want to know? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, TikTok. So, just even inputs and staying up current in your own industry with the social media tools that are common for our kids. I mean, the three of us, we were talking about our kids, and kind of, they're the same generation, same age. And, I laugh, I call a phone, the oxygen line. But that they come out of the womb with a phone, and that's what they know. I mean, really, they learn through, not always accurately, but that's their source of information. And we are trying, to challenge ourselves. And it's hard when you've worked with the same group of people and you've had success, doing what we do in the way we've always done it. But that's not going to work for the future.
Right.
And how do we leave our comfort zone? We talk about bell curves all the time. And, as you get older and you do all these things to build a successful career, you get to the top, and then you kind of want to take a different approach. And I want to relax. I've been there, done that, and kind of come in and enjoy the same success. And that's the, I guess, biggest challenge for me of how do I engage and keep people engaged in learning what's happening. So for the last few years on bonus objectives for people, there's been something new that they've never had before, and it's called Learn and Grow. And the first time I rolled this out, you could just see the discomfort in the engineers, because it wasn't a project with a KPI that was so, didn't have a financial. Learn and grow. What does that mean? Spent more time trying to explain learn and grow and why learn and grow is important not 100% sure that I've convinced them. So, but they do it, and I said it's what we have to do. The day we stop learning is the day we stop growing, and that's our jobs as managers and leaders. And we forget that. Is lean, when you're lean and you get more lean, we say we're anorexically lean. We're more than that. And you're just day-to-day stuff. You don't want to say putting out fires, but you do a lot of that. And you just forget, hey, I'm still supposed to be a leader. I'm still supposed to be concerned with the careers of the people who work with me every day, particularly the younger generation who are still aspiring to do more and grow. And that's a hard balance because leadership takes time. It really does. And to do it right is a huge time investment.
Hey, I want you to I want to go deeper on something you just said. I want you to kind of put on your HR hat, and as we talk about, organizations today, there may be 3-4 different generations in there. So from what are Euracare? I mean, your site, what are you doing when you've got different generations working together side by side? And as you said, you've got the ones that are coming out with the phone in their hand, and that's, their method of communication is text messages, right? And then you've got the older generations that's more traditional, that the face-to-face, let's talk about it. How do you and your colleagues, how are you addressing that?
That's a good question. I would say for me, at least here in our little world, the biggest thing is to give the younger generations a chance and a voice. Our tenure is 15, 16 years, and we've had people, we move them around. That's been one of our success stories of you can start off at, using me, and we talked about that already. We've had people starting in finance who went into quality, then into sales. That's not always typical. So you have established people moving in different roles, but we're still small. And how do you give people a chance and keep growing them unless somebody leaves or dies or retires? What do you do? So we created what we call engagement teams across different functions, and we limit them to how many managers really should be on a team. And my only challenge is, please let the other people have a voice. Mm-hmm. And the hardest thing as a manager sometimes is to stay quiet. The expectation when you're on any team is the highest person up on the team is going to speak when there's a decision, and they want somebody to maybe take the decision. The easy thing to do as the manager in the room is make the decision for everybody. The hardest thing is not to. And if you don't let them verbalize what they're thinking, to go through the full step of critical thinking, can they articulate an idea to the people in the room? Or do we as managers, I think I actually, Shane, you're the one who gave me this term, the superhero term. Mm-hmm. When you've worked with us in the past of, we have been guilty of being the superheroes. We come in with our pretty red cape and we solve every problem, and we've done well, and we feel good about it. We take great stuff that we feel good about it. Mm-hmm. And the people there, they feel good about it too. And what we've done sometimes is enable them to just make us, those superheroes, work harder. Yeah. And they're smart. They've had ideas, and maybe we're the ones who have stifled that. And they say, why should I? Y'all are going to do what you want to do anyhow. And I don't like that. So even for the people on the floor, to have them involved in these engagement teams. So probably after my first year taking over, we had our board visit. I think it was maybe the first board visit that we had. And I said, let's, you clean the plant like crazy, right?
Right.
and we're going to give them a plant tour. And for most people, it would be somebody like myself would be, okay, this is my moment to shine. Okay, but it's really not about me. So instead, we had some of our engagement teams positioned in the plant and had them make the presentation about the things that they are doing. Hourly people. Now we had to practice with them because they're like, you want me to talk to the, yes, we want you to talk. That, you know, they're shareholders. They are investing their money in here and you're part of it. You're part of the story. You're the one making the product. Let them hear from you. And that for me has been one way to try and engage not only different generations, but people across different levels. So everything is not just about managers.
Yeah, I love that. And the engagement teams, Dawn, that's a great idea that I know our listeners will take away, of bringing different levels, different generations together to kind of talk about and problem solve. And I think you're right. You know, a lot of times we defer to the leader at the table, right? We defer to them. But what I've, you know, even here at Competitive Solutions, I mean, we've got young folks, young kids. Now, I don't want to say kids, but younger people in our organization that have got some fantastic ideas about how can we, you know, improve our leadership training. How can we improve our software? You know, one of the terms a member of our Yount software team is we need to gamify it, right? I mean, that younger generation, they're looking for kind of the gamify of it with that. So how do we improve that? What about accountability? How do you see accountability there? I mean, is accountability a word that younger generation they embrace, or kind of what's the view on that?
That's a hard one. You know, for me, it parallels with ownership, and for me, the danger when you work together with people for such a long time and you have friendships is accountability becomes harder when people value the relational part of communication over accountability. And, you know, I'll be honest and tell you, I struggle with it as well. You know, we've had supply chain crises become part of the dialogue that, you know, it can't be an excuse. And if this project's delayed or we're waiting on this because it hasn't shipped and they can't get it, and it, you know, it kind of became a bit accepted for the last 2 years. And so now we have to kind of get back into how do we make sure accountability is part of it. And I will say we've made some steps. You know, you have a bonus, an individual bonus, and historically you don't feel good about giving somebody a 0 on a bonus line item. Never did we do that. Never. We say, oh, well, something happened, and it doesn't feel good because they're a good person. They're a great employee. They, you know, they did this and this happened. But it probably 2 years ago, we actually started putting the 0 there. You didn't do it. And people would say, you know, and it was hard, even though I said from the beginning, we need to do this. When the moment came, I'm like, well, God, that doesn't feel good. But they didn't do it. And some of the conversations we had, you know, they would say, well, this person is a good employee. And I'm like, yes, they're a great employee. And they say they do a good job. And I say, yes, they do a great job every day. They show up, and in return, we give them a paycheck. And the bonus is for above and beyond. And you compare it to somebody who gives 110% every single day. They need to do this. They are going the extra mile. How is that fair? And, you know, it still doesn't feel good when you really, you know, apply that. But it's been part of our change and evolution to kind of make sure accountability becomes a little bit that we do better at it.
And we talk about, you know, accountability, you got to make it visible, personal, and real. And your example right there, I mean, that's a great, you know, when you affect someone's paycheck, you know, bonus because of the, you know, the need to have a culture of accountability, then what we as leaders talk about is what becomes real, right? And so that's, many times that's what it takes to get people's attention, is when we make that accountability, that visible, personal, and real, where they can actually see it. And it's not about how they feel, it's about what are they doing.
It is, and like I said, the longer you work with people, and some of us have been working together for over 20 years, and maybe what's happening in their personal life, some real stuff, and you're like, God, but they're a good employee, and it's this year that they've had this challenge that in the other years they haven't, and so you start to even make excuses or justify not fully doing what we said. And so for me, the biggest thing I do not like is hypocritical management. So if I don't lead by example, I cannot expect other people to do the same thing in their departments, as painful as it may be. If I ask you to do it, then I have to be willing to do it, even if this is what it means.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey guys, sorry, I had a little difficulty there.
Go ahead, Shane.
Oh, it's okay.
Looking
my
at
connection still may not be good.
You're good, Shane. So looking at your career, is there someone that you look at was kind of a mentor? We all have mentors, people that we look up to that kind of went before us and led the way. Has there been someone in your career, whether in Euracare, outside of Euracare, maybe it's multiple people, that has really kind of helped you, Dawn, guide you and kind of been the person, your sounding board along your journey?
I wouldn't, in essence, have one specific that I would point to. I would say with every leader that I've worked for, and even worked with, because I've worked with some really great people, I've learned something from all of them, and even the ones that were the most difficult, because sometimes you learn more from experiences like that, because it tells you the leader that you don't want to be.
Yeah.
And for me, I've learned more in those experiences, and using the HR part of my career, people confide in you a lot. And so, when you have tools that, we've been trained on, that I've learned from you guys, even going back to, the DARE training that you did, and you understand, styles, and you hear how something, a particular conversation, a performance review went, and they come and they share that with you, you hear, and you try and coach and you help them, but you also learn, God, as a leader, this person did that, and look how it made them feel, and now they've lost motivation, or they want to quit. That they always say the first thing that makes people want to leave is their manager. So, dealing and always having retention being a KPI, you maybe internalize that. So I've learned probably more from those kinds of experiences. And I think that the people that stand out in my mind as really good leaders, or at least leaders that I respected, were those that were authentic and genuine. And when you don't have, as the leader, when you don't have to be the smartest person in the room, I appreciate that more, because they give other people on their team an opportunity to have a solution, and even to, maybe even go down that path, explore it, despite the fact that maybe 10 years ago this wouldn't have worked. And technology's changed, times have changed. So as leaders, like I said earlier, stepping back to let a learning experience happen. A couple of years ago, we did a global strategy, and one of the pillars in that was the creation of best teams. And how do you foster best teams? And one of those is really embracing a culture of being an entrepreneur. That means you're going to try some things that don't work. You know, that's counterproductive to lean manufacturing and mistake proving and all those things that we teach and we preach. And then you want to go out and you want to say, all right, we're going to do some things. And you know what? We may fail, but then you can't punish people if they fail because you're trying to build this other kind of culture. And leaders that, I mean, just to even have at the time CEO that would say, okay, and put this on our strategy map, for me, what was inspiring.
You know what? I love that because you think about curiosity, right? That's what you're talking about. I mean, the values of the leader of the future is humility and curiosity and those things that, in your career and my career and Seth's career weren't necessarily the values that were amplified and talked about. But I think we've learned, through our career that those are the things that are resonant in terms of the leaders we want to follow and the leaders we want to become. Dawn, you talked about your what you put on the performance reviews of Learn and Grow, and I heard a great quote this week. Seth and I were actually, and many of our team members were with the Army this week, and the commander of the installation said, "Not all readers are leaders, but all leaders are readers." And I love that thought because we have to be in a continuous learning loop, right? And when we get out of that continuous learning loop is when the world starts to pass us by. And I think this is, I'm going to brag on you for a second. I think this is why you are so awesome in your role, because you bring with you all those attributes that in your HR background and your love of people made you what you are, right? That you believe in curiosity, you believe in authenticity, you believe in humility. Even in this podcast, everything you come back to is like culture and how we're treating our people and how we're developing our leaders. And so, just from that, I just want to tell you, you're an inspiration to me, and I know you're an inspiration to your organization as well.
Oh, well, you're sweet. It's not about me. It's really not. And it's harder and harder. I mean, work is harder. The challenges industries are facing, we were talking about this earlier, just this week, I've heard about three different businesses going under. And I think it's going to get a little bit more challenging for industry everywhere in the next few months before it can get better. And how do we keep people here having confidence in our company's future and engaged? And for me, the best definition I've ever heard of engagement, and I've never forgotten it, it was, as I learn and listen to stuff in the car, was a podcast of Matthew Kelly, and he was giving a keynote address to an organization, a sales organization, about engagement. And he said to the leadership team, the best definition of engagement is, somebody has to believe that the future can be better than the present and that they have a way to influence it. Not just relying on other people, but what can I do? And if you can connect with that person to make them see or feel their path in it, then they'll be engaged. And so that's kind of where, I guess for me, how do we do that? Engagement teams is just one vehicle and one way to try to do that and make people, you talk about the HR, it's about, and it's very hard for engineers. So, if I share this and anybody here listens to this podcast, I'm like, oh my gosh. But if you want their behavior to change, you first have to create something in them, a feeling. I'm not going to make you move. Something in you is going to make you move. The only way to do that is to resonate with some level and connect with something that brings about an emotional response in you. I can do it by, okay, if you don't do this, you're going to get fired, but it's not authentic and genuine. You're just going to do it because you have to keep your job. The real movement comes when it comes from within and you did it on your own.
Yeah, I love that. Oh my gosh, what a great way to bring the podcast to a close. And I'm going to end with your words from the beginning, where you described that many of us want a seat at the table, but once you get at that seat at the table, how are you going to use your voice? And I just want to tell you, you've used your voice in a career that is quite frankly fantastic. And I appreciate you sharing your leadership journey and your career and using that voice to become the president of Euracare North America and the impact you're having in your organization. So, Dawn, thank you so much for being on the Pulse of High Performance. It was great to see you again. We wish you all the best, continued success, and God bless.
Thank you.